Welcome. My name is Thomas Ledford. I'm here again to share in this video the 8867 is the Pay Prepares Due Diligence Checklist. This is a very important form that we must fill out for every taxpayer that's definitely receiving income tax credit, which is part of a refund, and it's been like that for years. And these are the new changes that's made to the form that relates to tax reform for 2018 to 2025. Due to the tax legislation that was passed in 2017. So if you're familiar with being a preparer and having clients who have earned income credit, which is part of their refund, this 8867 form was been around for years. And so they added more and more to it as time went on. And they keep changing the format of it and things of that nature as time goes on and things change. So in this video, we're going to talk about the basic concept behind having to fill this form out and how to fill this form out based on the questions asked inside of this form. That's going to be able to protect you in the long run when it comes to potential clients being audited by the IRS based on particular types of returns being e-filed to the IRS that's more scrutinized than others. So, for instance, self-employed individuals' tax returns are being more and more audited. People who claim in other people, dependents are being more and more audited. So those things you got to be aware of. Also, the education credit, which is called the American Opportunity Credit, more and more of that is being audited because that credit was only designed for people who paid out of pocket for their education. It wasn't designed for people who were not paying for their education at all to claim the education credit. And so the IRS is noticing a pattern of behavior of so many people claiming this credit who do not qualify for it. So now they're going after those clients, asking them for that money back that they received as part of their refund for the years they claimed the education credit for that they didn't qualify for it for the first place. The 1098-T form is a tuition statement that a lot of institutions have to give the student as a record-keeping requirement, but it doesn't guarantee you be able to qualify for education credit. And so that's the big misnomer. All because you have a 1098-T form, that's the first step in order to even consider you for even the education credit, but that's not the majority of the requirement. And so, not to get off base here, with this form 8867, like I said, Pay Prepare Due Diligence Checklist. This checklist is put together and designed to save you from making sure you're doing the things you need to do inside of your business when it comes to tax preparation. And so this form we're going to go over now. And so the part one, due diligence requirements. It says, please check the appropriate box for the credits or head of household filing status claim on this return and complete related parts 1 through 5 for the benefits and head of household filing status claim. Check all that apply. So we got the EIC, we got the child tax credit, additional child tax credit, and then the new credit that they brought out for other dependents. And then next to that, the American Opportunity Credit. And then now the head of household has been added to the 8867. With us using Drake software for many years, we always had to fill out a due diligence form as related to the head of household anyway. So that's nothing new. They just decided to add it to the 8867 portion of this form now. And so there's nothing new for people who've been using Drake for years like myself. Number one, do you complete the return based on the information for tax year 2018 provided by the taxpayer or reasonably obtained by you? That should be yes. If it's no to any of these questions, you shouldn't be doing a return at all anyway. So the responses must be positive and true and correct in the beginning. And so if you have to say no to these questions, then you shouldn't be doing a client no way. And so that's the guidelines for basic tax preparation. If you can't fill out these forms with positive feedback, then you shouldn't be doing the clients at all. That's a red flag. They're definitely going to be audited and it's going to come back on you if you're signing them. And so that's just a footnote. Number 2, if credits are claimed on the return, did you complete the application EIC and or child tax credit, additional child tax credit, or underdependent credit worksheet found in the Form 1040, 1040 SS, 1040 PR, or 1040 NR instructions, and or the American Opportunity Credit worksheet found in the 8863 instructions, or your own worksheet that provides the same information in all related forms and schedules for each credit claim. Like I said, if you can't give a proper, true response to this, then you shouldn't be doing a return at all. So that should be yes. Number 3, did you satisfy the knowledge requirements? To meet the knowledge requirements, you must do both of the following: interview the taxpayer, ask questions, and document the taxpayer response to determine that the taxpayer is eligible to claim the credits and or had a household status. Review the information to determine that the taxpayer is eligible to claim the credit or the head of household filing status and the amount of any credits claimed. Yes. Number 4, did any information provided by the taxpayer or third party for use in preparing the return or information reasonably known to you appear to be incorrect, incomplete, or inconsistent? If yes, answer questions 4A, 4B. If no, go to 5. So that's a very important question. If you say yes to that, then you have 2 other. Now you got to answer 4A. Now you got to answer 4A and 4B. And so that's going to be a problem, because there's no way around being able to say yes to that and then have to validate even answering 4A and 4B. And 4A say, did you make reasonable inquiries to determine the credit, complete and consistent information? Did you document your inquiries? Documentation should include the questions you asked, whom you asked, when you asked, the information that was provided, and the impact the information had on the preparation of the return. And so the bottom line is, the main question was, if the information that you gathered doesn't appear to be incorrect or incomplete or inconsistent, and then there's no need to have to answer 4A and 4B, because they should always all be included in the way you collected the data and took documentation in the first place. And so 4A, the question 4 should be yes. I mean, it should be no. It should be no to 4A. I mean, question 4 should be no, because if it's incorrect, incomplete, and inconsistent, then that's a problem with the return in general. So 4 should be no. And then you go straight to 5. Did you satisfy the record retention requirements? To meet the record retention requirement, you must keep a copy of the documentation referenced in 4B, a copy of this Form 8867, a copy of applicable worksheets, a record of how, when, and from whom the information used to prepare Form 8867 and any applicable worksheets was obtained, and a copy of the documentation provided by the taxpayer that you relied on to determine eligibility for the credits and or household filing status, or to compute the amount of credits. So 5 should be yes. We go to 6. 6 says, did you ask the taxpayer whether he or she could provide documentation to substantiate eligibility for the credits and or had a household filing status and the amount of any credits claimed on the return if his or her return is selected for an audit? Yes. 7, did you ask the taxpayer if any of these credits were disallowed or reduced in any previous year? Yes. 7A said, did you complete the required recertification Form 8867? Well, the thing is, if the client says, if 7 asks, did you ask the client have they had any disallowment in previous years? If they say no to that, then there's nothing to do but go to the next question. And so for people who said yes to that, then you have to go and do the recertification requirement Form 8862 for people who said yes. For people who said no, there's no recertification Form 8862 to be filled out. And this form is going to change slightly based on what tax software vendor you use on how they put that information together. Line 8, if the taxpayer is reporting self-employment income, did you ask the question to prepare a complete and correct form 1040 Schedule C? Schedule C is profit and loss from business. So if this if a client doesn't have self-employment income at all on it, then not applicable will be the chosen response for line 8. Part 2, due diligence questions for returns claiming EIC. 9A, have you determined that this taxpayer is in fact eligible to claim the EIC for the number of children for whom the EIC is claimed, or to claim the EIC if the taxpayer has no qualifying child? Skip 9, B and C. If the taxpayer is claiming the EIC and does not have a qualifying child. Okay, so this depends on if it's a person who claiming children, you're going to say yes. B, did you ask the taxpayer if the child lived with the taxpayer for over half of a year? Yes. C, did you explain to the taxpayer the rules about claiming EIC when a child is a qualified child of more than one person? Yes. We'll go to part 3, due diligence questions for returns claiming child tax credit, additional tax credit, and other dependent credit. So 10 says, have you determined that each qualifying person for the child tax credit, additional child tax credit, and other dependent credit is the taxpayer's dependent who is a citizen, national, or resident of the United States? Yes. Did you explain to the taxpayer that he or she may not claim the CTC or a CTC if the taxpayer has not lived with the child for over half the year, even if the taxpayer has supported the child, unless the child's custodial parent has released a claim of exemption to the child? Yes. 12, did you explain to the taxpayer the rules about claiming the child tax credit, additional child tax credit, and other dependent credit for a child of divorced or separated parents? Yes. The next section deals with 13, did the taxpayer provide the required substantiation for the credits, including in Form 1098-T and or receipts for qualifying tuition and related expenses? So this is dealing with people who claiming the American Opportunity Credit. So if you have a tax return with a person who's claiming the American Opportunity Credit, then you're going to have to deal with that. But if you don't have a client who's claiming the American Opportunity Credit, Form 8863, then when it comes to 13, you can leave it blank or hit no. 14 says, have you determined that all the taxpayers was unmarried or considered unmarried on the last day of the year and provided more than half of the cost of keeping up their home for the year for a qualifying person? This is dealing with the head of household question. And so being the head of household means you must provide more than 50% of the cost of the place you live in at for you and your dependents. And that should be yes to that question. The next section says eligibility certification. You will have completed with all due diligence requirements for claiming applicable credits and of head of household filing status on the return of the taxpayer identified above if you: A, interview the taxpayer, ask adequate questions, document the taxpayer response on the return or in your notes, review adequate information to determine if the taxpayer is eligible to claim the credit or head of household filing status and to determine the amount of the credit claim. B, complete this Form 8867 truthfully and accurately and complete the actions described in this checklist for any applicable credits claimed and head of household filings if claimed. C, submit Form 8867 in the manner required. And D, keep all 5 of the following records for 3 years from the latest of the dates specified in the Form 8867 instructions under the documentation retention. A copy of the Form 8867, the applicable worksheets or your worksheets for any credits, copies of the documentation provided by the taxpayer on which you rely to determine eligibility for the credit or head of household status, a record of how, when, and from whom the information used to prepare this form and the applicable worksheet was obtained, and a record of any additional questions you may have asked to determine eligibility to claim the credit, and or how head of household filing status, and the amounts of any credits claimed, and the taxpayer's answers. If you have not complied with all due diligence requirements, you may have to pay a $520 penalty for each failure to comply related to a claim of an applicable credit or head of household filing status. So the bottom line is, when it comes to filling out this form, you want to fill it out truthfully and accurately. And like I say, if you can't get enough positive responses in filling out this form and going through your due diligence and doing interviews by asking the taxpayer certain questions and getting the responses from them, then you shouldn't be doing a client no way. It's a red flag altogether, and you want to refer them to someone else. So I'll be doing a follow-up to 8867 on another video. And so if you want to be a part of my coaching program that I have for individuals who want to make a career in the income tax preparation industry, leave me your email and I can send you some information about the program and what it's all about and what's included and what's in it for you if you decide to connect with me in this industry of income tax preparation. And I'll see you in my next video.